Welcome and good evening and good night to all our friends who have joined in from Asia and from the Middle East. And of course, for those of you in Middle East and in Asia who are celebrating the Eid Mubarak, I wish you Salam Eid Mubarak, or right here in Malaysia, we say Selamat Hari Raya Aidilfitri. And for those of you who are joining in from Europe, good afternoon. And maybe we do have some friends all the way from Pan America. It might be early over there. So good morning to you guys. Thank you very much for joining us today. My name is Neo, and together with Ilva, Gustavo, and Xuanming, my co-founders of IGNITX, who are tuning in as well, we thank everyone for being here today. Allow me to say one or two sentences about IGNITX. So IGNITX is an international network of event professionals who wants to make a difference in the events world. We provide specialized consultancy services in combination with active and integrated support of project delivery. On the picture here, you can see some of the projects that we have delivered together with our preferred events management system partner, WISTEAM, and also the people in the IGNITX family on your right. So we are approximately about 70 people right now who are in our IGNITX family. Now today, we are actually collaborating this episode with the Football Business Academy. And so I would also like to say some words about the Football Business Academy. Our partners today, the Football Business Academy, is a Swiss educational institution focused entirely on the football industry. The FBA offers a professional master's in football business, which is delivered by professors and guest lecturers that have a great wealth of professional experience, both practical and theoretical. Debuting in September 2017, the FBA boasts a total of 50 alumni members, or maybe a little bit more, that have secured jobs in the industry. This is where their strength lies. With a strategic partnership with SoccerX, an industry heavyweight, plus a multitude of football organizations all around the world, the FBA ensures that candidates gain exclusive access to a treasure of specialized knowledge, invaluable networking opportunities and skills, as well as attractive internship opportunities that will prepare them for a successful start in their career in the football industry. So, in the previous 4 episodes, we have featured event professionals who belong to the IGNITX family. Today's episode is a special episode, as we have partnered up with the FBA to feature their co-founder, who is also an event professional. And he also happens to be my ex-colleague from Buenos Aires 2018 Youth Olympic Games. So, without wasting any more time, allow me to give you a small introduction without going much into detail about him. Patrick is a French Brazilian who, after having lived across the globe for the past decade, considers himself as an adopted Swiss living in the beautiful city of Lausanne. Co-founder of the Football Business Academy, Patrick is also an event professional specializing in international and institutional relations, having worked in the Rio 2016 Olympic and Paralympic Games and the Buenos Aires 2018 and Lausanne 2020 Youth Olympic Games. He has also recently co-founded ZebraSkill, an online platform that connects Swiss companies to freelancers. Let me just bring up a photo of Patrick. Give me a second. There we go. So Patrick has a bachelor degree in hospitality management and business from the prestigious École Hôtelière de Lausanne, EHL, from which he graduated in 2012, where he co-created the EHL Football Committee and started the women's football team, which he coached for 2 years. He then interned and subsequently worked with Soccerex, the leading event that pulls all the industry of football together. In 2014, Patrick continued his master's degree in sports management after being accepted in the renowned FIFA Masters program. So I'm not going to go much more into detail about Patrick because I'm going to let him tell his story to you guys today. So without further ado, please give a warm round of a virtual applause to Patrick. Hi, Patrick.
Hello, Neo. Hello, everyone. Bon appétit to... Very good, very good. Thank you. Bon appétit to everyone in Europe who's actually tuning in during their lunchtime. And well, good morning or good afternoon, good evening to everyone around the world.
Great, great. We in IGNITX are delighted to partner up with the FBA for this episode. And Patrick, actually, you know, who knew that our past from 2017 when we met for the first time in Buenos Aires would lead us here today? I still remember meeting you at brunch. You know, remember when we were in Pani and then I introduced you to my favorite ice cream shop, Rapa Nui.
Rapa Nui, I do remember that. Actually, it was my first day in Buenos Aires that we met for brunch. Great memories.
Yes,
thank you very much, Neo. Thank you very much for the invite. And most importantly, thank you also for this opportunity of for us, for the FBA to partner up with IGNITX. I'm very happy to be here sharing some stories with our audience, and I'm also very much looking forward to this new collaboration between IGNITX and the FBA.
Yes, yes, definitely. So tell us a little bit about your history, Patrick. How did you exactly start on this path?
Well, sure. Let me just start with a first anecdote, actually, because people might be wondering why I'm wearing a jersey. Actually, a friend of mine asked me a little bit earlier today what jersey I was going to wear today, because I'm used to wear different jersey throughout the year. And well, I was running this morning around by the lake, and I passed by the Olympic house, and I realized that this year, obviously because of the pandemic, all sporting events have been canceled, including the Olympic Run Day. And this is actually a jersey from the Olympic Run Day last year. So I thought I would pay tribute to that for today's session.
Very nice.
So yeah, and Neo, so how I started in this career, well, you mentioned it in the introduction. So when I was actually studying at EHL doing my bachelor degree, I co-founded the EHL Football Committee, which is basically a student organization where the aim was basically to bring football as a motor, as a driving force of the student life in the campus. And besides playing for the football team, so I've been playing football all my life and among a lot of different sports, I continued playing at EHL, but I also created the women's football team, which I coached for 2 years, and it was an incredible experience. I loved it, and the team still exists, and I'm very happy to see the legacy behind it that we left with my co-coach Rishav. And so in this EHL Football Committee, which Alberto was part of it as well, we were organizing football tournaments, football conferences at the campus. We organized field trips to football organizations with the students. And at that moment, I basically realized that there was a whole industry behind sports. It was not about only the pitch, it was behind it. And I had no idea of that before this. So at that moment, I realized that I also wanted to pursue a career in sports. And through those activities that I was doing in the frame of the EHL Football Committee, I started growing a small network of contacts of people that I was speaking with. And one of them was the managing director at the time of SoccerX. And so SoccerX offered me an internship right after graduation. So I joined them. It was sort of a dream job. I was looking after the relationship with clubs, with governing bodies, with brands. I joined in a commercial role as part of their sales and account management team. And so trying to sell commercial properties to brands and clubs, but also building a strong network and advising clients. And so it was so good that this 1 month internship right away turned into a full-time job. And it was just like really a dream job as a first step into the industry. I then decided to continue my studies and went for a sports management degree, master's degree at the FIFA Masters, another amazing year of my life. And I graduated in 2014, the year of the World Cup in Brazil, and I then moved to Brazil and basically started my this amazing journey in the Olympic movement with as you mentioned, Rio 2016, Buenos Aires 2018, the Youth Olympic Games, and Lausanne 2020, most recently, Winter Youth Olympic Games.
So Patrick, when you were in École Hôtelière Lausanne, when you were doing your studies there, what actually motivated you to start this committee?
Well, it was really the idea of trying to bring more life to the campus, more sports life to the campus, more activities related to football. And as I said, I've always been a big sports fan, a big football fan, and football is not necessarily only about playing, but there's plenty of other things. So when I realized that there was so much things we could do and so much things we could have access, I wanted also to provide that access to the rest of the people, of the students at university. And so it was amazing to...
Yeah, that's fantastic. Is it still alive right now, that committee?
It is still alive. It still looks after the football teams, the two male football teams and the women's football team, as well as the different activities that we had started back at the time.
That's great. That's great. Then you said that actually SoccerX is or was your dream job. Why didn't you continue on in SoccerX? Why did you decide to go for FIFA Masters?
That's a great question. It was actually a dream job. It was my first step into the sports industry. I was managing stakeholders' relationships at a very high level. I was working a lot with Brazil and traveling a lot to there as well, which I was loving that, and to different places as well. We were delivering a high added value business event for the industry, which is also very rewarding. And SoccerX was also very special because this is also sort of where the FBA was born, as I met my co-founders there. But indeed, it was a tough decision, Neo. I'm a strong believer in education and qualifications, and before entering the sports industry, I had told myself that if I decide to pursue a career in sports, then I really want to specialize myself in this industry. So I actually applied for the FIFA Masters. That was my goal, but with no real expectations. I thought I was a bit young at that time, maybe a bit inexperienced. So if I was not going to be accepted on that year, at least I would be in the radar for the following year. And actually, when I got accepted, this was the big dilemma. So do I continue working in the dream job that I'm having, or do I actually go take the chance this amazing chance that I had to be accepted at the Masters? It was a very, very tough decision, and in the end, I realized that if I continued for more time at SoccerX, maybe I would be so, let's say, rooted into the industry and let's say so well launched, because it's an amazing platform to grow a network, that maybe in a year's time, I wouldn't want anymore to do a master's degree. And as such, I wouldn't pursue my convictions, which were getting a degree in sports management. So I decided to take this step and to leave SoccerX and go for the FIFA Master. Actually, I stayed with SoccerX as an external consultant for a long time, so it sort of worked perfectly. And we obviously kept in touch. SoccerX is a great family, and I'm extremely grateful to them.
Very nice. I actually noticed that SoccerX is one of your biggest partners in the Football Business Academy as well.
Absolutely, we sort of called them as a founding partner, because they were with us since the very beginning. Two of my co-founders, we were working together at SoccerX at the time, and they've always been here to support us, and we keep very, very strong ties with them even still today.
That's great. I think, would you consider that doing the FIFA Masters, I mean, FIFA, of course, it's the epitome of football, right? Was it an education dream come true? Did you also always want to pursue a master's in football, because you just finished your master's in maybe your degree in EHL, which is totally different from sport, but now you're pursuing something in sport, and moreover it's the FIFA Masters.
Yeah, correct. Well, actually, it's called the FIFA Master, but it's not specifically to football. It's actually a sports management degree, and that's the great thing about it. It touches all the sports. So it's not really specifically training you to get into the football industry, but the sports industry in general. At that time, it was absolutely a dream come true. I consider it as the best master's degree out there, and but yet my ambition was not necessarily to work in football only. So I wanted, basically, when I graduated from the masters, I wanted to gain broad experience. I wanted to go internationally, and I didn't feel like entering one organization and stay there for many years.
Right.
And I also had a strong desire. So I graduated in 2014. I had a strong desire to have a life experience in Brazil, coming from a Brazilian mother, but having grown up in France. I really wanted to live in Brazil and contribute to sort of this sports momentum that the country was living with the World Cup 2014 and the Olympics 2016. So I got the opportunity in early 2015 to go and work with for the organizing committee of Rio 2016 Olympic and Paralympic Games, and it was amazing. Yeah, I was part of the NOC and NPC relations team, which is sort of which corresponds to like team services in a non-Olympic, let's say, language. And I was specifically in charge of the relationship with the National Paralympic committees. And it was also a dream job in a way, because I'm a relationship person. I love servicing teams, people. I love giving the best support possible to them, and also simply working with the Paralympic movement was just absolutely fulfilling. It's such a different mentality. I was working both with the Olympics and the Paralympics, but the Paralympic movement is such a different mentality, so inspiring. It was really unforgettable. I mean, Rio overall, the Rio 2016 overall was unforgettable. It was a lifetime experience. I arrived 1 year and a half before games time, and that was such a good energy, such a good dynamic with a lot of competent people. Then we know what happened. The crisis just before the start of the games. It was very difficult to surmount, but we did it. The whole team did it. We turned it to, in the end, an amazing event. And I remember back at that time, after an event like that, and you probably felt that many times, and especially after an event like this, we kind of say, okay, that was great. That was a great experience, but that's enough. But then that's enough of events. But then, when it's gone, you start missing it again and again, and you miss it a lot. And then I was very lucky to get another opportunity to work for the Buenos Aires 2018 Youth Olympic Games. And then I continued again with the Winter Youth Olympic Games, Lausanne 2020, which were also amazing experiences.
Yeah, I think Lausanne 2020 was one of the last multi-sport events that was held this year, unfortunately, with the pandemic actually plaguing the world. So, Patrick, going back into your FIFA Masters time, because I come from AISTS, and AISTS and FIFA Masters, we always have this rivalry between us, you know. So I have to share this with the public right now because FIFA Masters is built on football. And AISTS is not actually built on football. It's also, as you said, sport management, but it's endorsed by the IOC. But during every year, AISTS always has a football friendly match with FIFA Masters. And during that
Correct.
year, my year, we beat FIFA Masters student at their own game, and it was really fulfilling.
Well, congrats on that. That's
All right.
it's not
Yeah.
always that we have very good teams at the FIFA Master. You know, it's very uneven. But congrats on that great achievement. I know we have this strong rivalry. It's fair enough for you to mention that.
Yes, but I think both AISTS and FIFA Masters has actually churned out a lot of great candidates in the sport industry, in the football industry as well. Look at you, right? You have turned out fantastic in your career, and we want to know a little bit more about your role in the National Paralympic. I mean, the role in which you were holding in Rio 2016. Because previously, in our different episodes, of course, part of the showcases is to let people know what goes behind the scenes. And your job as National Paralympic Committee's Relations Manager is a very important position, but nobody really understands what you do. So maybe you can tell us a little bit more about that.
Yeah, sure, absolutely. Actually, just bouncing back on what you said because I see a little comment from my friend Colum here. Indeed, in our year, in the 2014 years, this is basically, and I'm very sort of ashamed to say that, but playing against ISTS was the only game we won in the whole season. So that was our great football achievement. I was not going to mention it, but since Colin put it out there, thank you, Colin, for that.
Nice. Thank you, Paulo, for that. Congratulations to the year of 2014.
So about the role of NOC or NPC relations, as I said, yeah, it's sort of a team services role, and thank you for highlighting that. It's indeed a crucial role. We are basically the client representative for the National Olympic Committee or National Paralympic Committee clients, which basically means the athletes. So this team is basically the interface between the organizing committee and the NOCs or the NPCs, which are basically one country's umbrella organization in charge of bringing the delegation, the athletes, to the games. So whatever the NOC or the NPCs need as an information, we have to provide them. And whatever information we as an organizing committee need for them, we try to get it from them for planning purposes for the organizing committee. And obviously representing this client, this NOC NPC client, requires to be, which is sort of, let's say, the most important client if we're talking about the athletes. It requires to be involved in all the discussions regarding the definition of service levels to provide to them during the event. So in the end, we end up having a very, let's say, transversal role within the organization, co-managing projects with specific departments to implement the operations. And actually that includes working closely with some departments, including the sport entries team, which we're always part of, on monitoring qualifications, for example, or the accreditation teams. And that also explains why we get along so well, Neo, because we've shared that great working relationship besides the friendship.
Okay, I mean, definitely. I think, at least for me, one of the most important roles in an organizing committee is, of course, the relations between NOCs and your team and PCs and your team. And like you said, the accreditation sport. I mean, unfortunately, our roles, both our departments are not something which is very tangible. So nobody really can see what we do, compared to village or even the venues or sports where actually things can be seen on TV. But our role, which is actually quite important because we are the ones who register the people to come to the games. Yeah.
You're the workers of the shadows, but the crucial ones.
Yeah, I think so. That's good. So we have a question from your ex-colleague and my ex-colleague, Victoria. He says, Patrick, how about volleyball? Any experiences on that front?
Vicky, I don't know what you're talking about. This is another shameful moment. I guess she's referring to a volleyball tournament that is held every summer in Lausanne among all the different sporting organizations in the Olympic capital. And so we had one team with Lausanne 2020. And I'm not sure I want to talk about results because I'm not even sure we won one game, but in the end, it's all about participation. And although Victoria plays very well, I'm not the best volleyball player. So in the end, it was not a very successful ride in our volleyball competitions.
Well, at least now you have an anecdote from your Lausanne 2020 days to share. What about sharing with us an anecdote from Rio 2016?
Oh, well, Rio 2016 was a lot of anecdotes, actually. Well, events in general, better than anyone, are full of surprises. And as much as you plan, you always have the unexpected. We need to be ready for anything. So plenty of stories come to my head, but like in Rio 2016 with the crisis we sort of lived, have plenty of stories of making beds, cleaning rooms, helping the different teams to get the village ready to welcome the athletes. And I thought it was only what happened in Rio, but it sort of became a tradition. After Rio, I said, okay, maybe I don't do it anymore. I don't have to make beds, clean rooms, etc. But it still happened in Buenos Aires. It still happened in Lausanne 2020. And I think that's also the beauty of it, because all the teams get together to really deliver a common goal, and that's extremely important. But maybe to share an anecdote that is, let's say, more rewarding, inspiring. I think it's one of my best souvenirs of my event experience. I was in charge of NPC Europe and America in Rio 2016, and so this is about NPC, National Paralympic Committee of Aruba, and they had never participated to the Paralympic Games, and they had only one eligible athlete who could potentially qualify for the Games. But because of financial difficulties and lack of local support, they were not sure that they wanted to participate to the Games. And that was part of my role, to try to convince them to come and to help them, to assist them to make sure they can come in their preparation. They may eventually make it to the Games. And on the day of the competition, the athlete, Jesus, I remembered, I have some pictures with him, it's incredible. Well, Jesus and his coach go to the venue, to the warm-up area, and the coach goes to the call room basically to announce that his athlete is here and ready to compete. He's told by the technical officials that it's too early and that Jesus cannot be warming up in this warming up pool, but in another area. So the coach and Jesus go to this other area and wait for further announcements. Moments later, nothing happens, no further announcements. And so the coach goes back to the call room and say, we're waiting to be called. And then the technical official tells him it's too late. The athlete was not in the warm-up area when the last call was made, so we cannot compete anymore. And well, this was devastating news. Like it was very sad, very outrageous. They called me. They were desperate. I tried to reach out to the sport and the venue teams on site, but indeed it was impossible. The session had already started. He would not compete. So I told them basically to place a complaint, a reserve at the sports information desk, and to come back to the village where we would establish a plan. And so it's funny because I say I was almost part of this team. Like we went to meetings with the IPC, the International Paralympic Committees, their office. We went to the Sport Information Center, and I was like with them as if I was part of them. So going much over my sort of my role, but it was like I felt it was my duty. And in the end, we come to an agreement with the IPC, and we say, indeed, we have to make Jesus participate. He has to be part of this. And so the only way was for him to compete in another session, except that in another day, except that in the Paralympics, athletes compete depending on their classification and their disabilities. So he went on to compete with, so he was placed in a race with athletes that had much more abilities than he did. But yet, he was there on the day of the competition. He was on the competition pool, and the race starts, and you see suddenly all the athletes like rocket starting very fast, and there's only one athlete left behind, and it's Jesus. He was so far behind that he had not yet reached the 50-meter half when the rest of the athletes were already finishing their race. So he basically was going to do his second 50 meters alone in the pool. And I was there because I didn't want to miss that very special moment. I was there in the arena, and I see what's happening, what's going on, and I suddenly stand up and start shouting and screaming, Jesus, Jesus. And next thing I know, like the whole arena is standing up and cheering up for him. And it was just incredible. And he basically did all the second half with the whole arena cheering for him. And it was like so emotional. I remember talking to him after the race, and he told me he had never felt something like that before. The NPC was so grateful. They appeared in all the local newspaper. They even wrote a letter, and I appeared in the newspaper as well for them. It was honestly, it's one of my most rewarding moments I lived, and we live also for these moments of emotions of the game. So I thought it would be nice to share as well this beautiful story.
Of course, you are giving me goosebumps now. You know, this kind of stories, they are so precious, and you only get that kind of feeling and emotions when you see these kinds of incredible feats. I mean, I remember this story is similar to what we have in the Olympics, like Eddie the Eel, you know, the guy, he was last also in the pool, but not many people actually highlight the Paralympics. Not many people know about the Paralympic athletes compared, of course, to the Olympic athletes. However, I think the International Paralympic Committee is doing quite a good job getting these stories out because they are so inspirational and amazing. And actually, these athletes, they come to participate in the games because they want to be at the games. It's not for glory most of the time. They come just to because they made it, and it gives them that emotion. And when you meet them, at least for me, the Paralympians, they are a level above the Olympics.
You're absolutely right. It's exactly that feeling. It's just amazing to work with that.
Definitely. Thank you very much for sharing that story. It's very inspirational, and then I hope that everybody who is listening who has actually gone through an Olympics or any kind of games, and you get these really admirable moments where two countries hug each other when they are in political a warfare and stuff like that. So really, thank you so much for sharing that great story with us.
Thank you.
So coming back to the Football Business Academy, before we go into that, we already have a question from a fellow Malaysian who is listening, and he's a lawyer. Yes. Any chance FBA can open a franchise in Malaysia?
Of course. Actually, yes, we. I don't know about the franchise, but we could certainly think about collaborating. Rick, thank you for that question. We ran a certain number of certificates, tailor-made certificates around the world, and we for that we work with governing bodies or universities locally to really customize them for the local market. So obviously with you, Rick, and then definitely with Neo, we can definitely think about explore those opportunities.
Nice. So tell us a bit, how actually did you get that idea of establishing the Football Business Academy, and why is the focus on football?
Well, that goes back to 2015. Actually, you showed a picture in the description before, where actually what we could call the conceptualization of the FBA, and so it was a picture with two great friends of mine who ended up being my partners, my co-founders at the FBA. It was Dorian Esterer, which is the CEO of the FBA, and Christian Dobrev, which is the Chief Partnerships Officer of the FBA. At that time of the picture, we were at UEFA, and we had no idea of what was going to happen, but we were always talking about plans, about ideas, debating how to basically disrupt, improve. And a few months later, after that picture, the so-called FIFA Gate happened, and Dorian, the idealizer and the driving force of the FBA, calls me, and I had moved to Brazil in the meantime to work for Rio 2016, and he says, "I have an idea. I want to create a football business program focusing on strong values such as ethics, integrity, professionalism." And I'm like, indeed, it's a hot topic, and yes, it's a great idea. Okay, well, I'm here in Rio. I'm sort of having a 300% time job with the games, but yes, of course, I'll help. And a few months later, it was like Dorian in Geneva, Chris in Panama, and myself in Rio. We were sort of having virtual Skype sessions on developing further this idea and developing the concept of the FBA. But basically, the main idea behind it, and actually Dorian was always a visionary on this, was to really disrupt the way sports and football business education, business management is taught. And we really wanted to bring a more, let's say, concrete, more modern way and not academic. So in early 2017, we officially incorporated the FBA in Geneva with our other co-founders. We actually just celebrated our 3 years anniversary a bit earlier this year. And thank you very much. And in September 2017, a few months later, we launched our first edition of the professional master's degree. It's incredible memories, and now it's incredible to see what it has become. We have like a strong positioning in the market, and we have an amazing team of 10 people doing their best, doing a fantastic work to provide the best experience possible for our candidates. But basically, I mean, if I had to simplify the recipe, it's an innovative idea, a good group of friends, a good group of professionals, an extensive network, and some strong support from partners who believe in you since the very beginning, which is important for the credibility. And here I talk specifically about our Socrax family that we mentioned before. And that's the recipe, but I'm sure you know it, Neo. I mean, isn't it how it happened as well for IGNITX? So how did you start at IGNITX?
Yes, well, this showcase is about FBA, but yes, IGNITX actually also started very recently, and because we also, as you said, have this strong network of people, that we decided to come up with this, because Me, Ilva, Xuanming, and Gustavo, we have always wanted to make a difference in events. We want to see improvement because going from one event to another event and you see the same thing over and over again, you see the same problems over and over again, like what you said earlier. You have to make your bets there. You have to make your bets also in Buenos Aires. You have to make your bets also in Lausanne. And so when we went from one event to another, we continue to see the same things. So we said, like, we need to do something. We need to make sure that actually the knowledge that we have and the tools that we have created are shared. And I think sharing knowledge, that is one of our main pillars in Ignites. And I know you have shared your pillars as well in the FBA, which is knowledge, experience, and network. So, how does actually FBA differ from other sport management programs such as the FIFA Masters, like because you are a student, you were a student there, and AISTS where I was a student. So, where do you think it differs?
That's a great question. Actually, you mentioned it, but well, you're ASTS alumni. I'm a FIFA Master alumni, and we both know how much we owe to them. And I know 100% that I wouldn't be here where I am today if it wasn't for the FIFA Master. And I'm grateful for life for what the FIFA Master has brought me. And it will always remain my family. The ties we create throughout the year are so important. It's lifelong friendships and relationships. Actually, you also showed the picture at the beginning of my FIFA Master 14th edition graduation day, which was very nice to see again. So, well, I still believe that the FIFA Master is one of the best programs in the world. If I dare to say ahead of AISTS, but I'm not sure you'll let me do that. but no, basically the main idea about with the FBA was, as I mentioned, to step away from traditional academic programs and to create something innovative. And that's why we decided to call it a professional master. And for that, we worked on raising the bar in this exact three pillars that you mentioned, which one is knowledge. And by knowledge, I mean concrete knowledge, applied knowledge, not academic. And because all the content is taught by industry professionals and not university professors. The second pillar is experience. And because we actually guarantee internships in football organizations to our candidates as part of their curriculum so that they have field experiences. And this is thanks to a growing partners network that we have. And Chris has been doing a tremendous job on that side. They get the chance to intern in clubs like PSG, Benfica, Olympique Lyonnais, Juve, Bayern Munich, just to name a few. And that really gives them a real notion of what is the reality of the industry. We also do field trips. We go to the most important football organizations, like you do as well at the AISTS and like we did at the FIFA Master. We also bring them to what we call the Soccer X Week, which is sort of an immersion week into the football business scene during one of the Soccer X events. So we take all our candidates there, and they basically experience this immensity of the business. And then the third pillar is network, and you know about it, how important it is. We've built a strong and cohesive FBA community because we really wanted to give access to our candidates to a strong network. So they have access to all our professors, our lecturers, our partners, and etc. We also have about, as you mentioned, 50 alumni in the market working from some of the largest football organizations, such as UEFA, MLS, PSG clubs like PSG, FC Nordsjælland, Atlanta United. Some are working in sporting events as well. They did the World Cup, FIFA World Cup U17, the World Cup in India, even Lausanne 2020 actually. And some also are entrepreneurs, started their own business. But we basically believe that we strongly believe that with these three pillars, we can give, and putting them at a high level, we can give all the tools to the candidates that they need in order to break into the sports industry, the football industry, and succeed in it. And actually, well, there's also a fourth pillar that for me is extremely important, and especially nowadays with what's happening currently, which is flexibility. And this pillar sort of summarizes the overall concept of the FBA as well, with all the above pillars that I mentioned. And that's also what makes this program sort of unique. So we've created the blended program. So it's a master program, a one-year master program, divided in 4 modules, and it's half online, half physical. So the first 2 modules are online classes, which gives the flexibility for candidates located around the world to continue working on what they do, continue getting some income as well, which is important, and start preparing their transition to the football industry. Then we have the 1 module internship that I mentioned before, and we have 1 last module on campus where we have live classes, and sometimes we hold the classes in the stadium. For example, we do leadership classes in the changing room to contextualize it. We do fun engagement classes in the stands of the stadium, which gives a complete different perspective, and I think this is very interesting. We also do the field trips on that 4th module, and a student business project that is basically a real consultancy project for one of our club partners. And yeah, but you know,
it all sounds great. If I was a football enthusiast and I'm still looking for a master's program, I would definitely sign up. So maybe you can tell our listeners today, because I guess we have listeners also from my home country, Malaysia, who may be interested. So how do interested candidates apply to FBA?
Well, basically what we look for candidates, and we do a good selection process, but we basically look at the diversity. What we basically want to reach is, we want to make sure to give possibilities to people all over the world to be able to get access to this education. So we select a very diverse background, so that through this curriculum and through the, let's say, the guidance that the personal guidance that we give to our candidates, they have all the chances in hand, all the tools in hand to manage to get a job in the football industry. So the candidates can be people that are already working in the sports industry and want to upskill their skills, let's say, refresh their skills, or also people that are working in different industries and want to transition into the football industry because they're so passionate about it. And because it's a master's degree, so they need to come with a bachelor degree, a strong motivation, obviously, and the curriculum is entirely in English, so they have to dominate English. And we basically have 2 intakes per year. So if there is any people interested in applying for the FBA, we have an intake starting in September this year. So feel free to go to the FBA's website and apply.
All right. Wow, look at the time. I think maybe we will take one more question from the audience, and then we're gonna wrap up. There's a question from a fellow Malaysian. Seems that my Malaysian friends are very active today. With the present COVID-19 pandemic, how do you see the future of football in regards to spectators or supporters' presence in stadiums and the game played on the field?
Well, Maud, it's a good question. It's gonna take some time for the sports industry, the football game to get back to normal. We see now different agreements being made between the different authorities to restart the leagues. Some of the leagues will restart. Some of the leagues have been cancelled for this season, and but those that are restarting are behind closed doors. Spectators, supporters, nobody has an idea yet, a proper date on where there will be a lot back in the stadium. But I think we need to be very cautious with this pandemic and not underestimate potential consequences of a second wave and reopening everything as if it was back to normal. So I really don't see that happening before the end of the summer, even most likely September, October.
All right. Thanks, Halim, for that great question. I think Patrick is the perfect person to answer that because he's in the football industry. So thank you also for that question, and also thank you for the answer, Patrick. So finally, Patrick, any words of advice that you want to share with aspiring event professionals or those who want to further their studies in sport?
Word of advice, sure. Well, one that we touched on a lot, which is obvious and it's particularly important to me, is education. As I said, I strongly believe in education, in getting qualification in the industry you decide to work in. So specializing yourself in that. That's one path. Another path, and actually is not exclusive to education, is volunteering. And here I will relate to what Andres mentioned in another episode of the Showcases series, because Andres actually started in this industry volunteering in different events, and so especially nowadays with all what has happened with this pandemic, there will be obviously a lot of people looking for jobs and for opportunities. And so volunteering is really a way into the sports industry. Then I would say passion. You need a lot of passion. You need commitment. You need adrenaline. And I think this is also what Cynthia that was featured in another episode mentioned. If you don't have that, you cannot do events. Sports events are not made for everyone. It's tough. You need to know what you're getting into. As I said, it's full of surprises. And you need to be the one who says, I'm going to make it happen, even when it's the most challenging. So, and I remember having this chat with one of our FBA graduates who got offered a job at Lausanne 2020. And I was trying to tell him what to explain him what was the event about, and etc. And now it would be very funny to ask him what he thinks looking back at it and after this crazy experience he lived. So Alex, if you're listening to us, we'll be happy to have your thoughts on that.
I'm sure that Alex got his job in Lausanne 2020 thanks to you as well, and thanks to the FBA.
I would say thanks to the FBA because it's a good qualification, but no, thanks to him because he proved to his line manager that he was a great fit for the role, and actually he made the total unanimity. He was a great asset for the team, and actually that brings me to one very important point that I believe in is make sure you bring an added value, because you bring and that you show your added value. And this is not only in terms of competencies or experiences. This is very often the case that it lies on your attitude. And that's something that it's a principle in my life, whether it's on a professional basis or in a personal basis. Whatever I do, whatever I undertake, I make sure to add an added value to that. So that's a very important tip. If you're looking for a job out there, before you get into an interview, make sure to identify what is your added value in relation to that job.
Thank you, Patrick. Yeah. I think that's fantastic advice for people who really want to start in the events world, because I totally agree with you with that value added or added value, because anybody can do one job, but if you have that extra advantage, then you put yourself above everybody else.
Yeah, and then maybe one more advice, which is a bit more philosophical and not so much practical, and it's slow life. And actually, this concept was brought to me by a great friend and an amazing person, Neil. and I say it because it might sound counterintuitive for people working in events and having an event life, which is sort of a fast life, but it is not. And as a very wise man, Carl Honoré, said, the slow philosophy is not about doing everything at a snail's pace. It's about doing things at the right speed. And so for me, you need to determine what is your own tempo and find what is your tempo giusto, as we say. And like that, you will be able to live your life at your own speed. It doesn't need to be the ultra speed. And just like that, you will be able to appreciate life fully, because most of the time when we get to sport events, we end up working so hard that we sometimes forget to enjoy. So with that philosophical concept in mind, I hope you can all take full joy of the role you work on.
Definitely. And I would like to add on to that you have to love what you do.
Absolutely.
Because it makes also a lot of difference. But thank you so much for the advice, and thank you to you and the FBA for coming on today on the Ignite Showcases. I hope that everybody who's listening, I hope that Patrick's story motivated and inspired anybody who is listening or anybody who will listen later to this recording to consider a career in events, especially the football industry. And for those of you who want to break into the football industry, like what Patrick said, I think the best masters right now to go for is the Football Business Academy. So definitely check out the Football Business Academy's Masters program. Any closing remarks before we say goodbye to everyone?
Well, just a massive thank you to you, Neo. Thank you for these kind words, and thank you to the Ignite team. Honestly, I'm very impressed by what you guys have accomplished to date, and yet I know it's only the start. I'm very happy to see that you have already delivered amazing project, mainly within the Olympic movement. But I'm very confident that your expertise and the solutions you provide could be of great use also in the football industry. So I'll put it out there for those listening. If there is any football event organizer out there listening, and that has a need for external expertise on the delivery of the event, make sure to reach out as well to IGNITX. They're doing really great job. I'm also very looking forward to developing this partnership with you, Neo. Our friendship is very important, but also I really believe in this collaboration with you, and I hope to continue connecting the bridge between education and sport events careers, and hopefully some of our alumni can become also part of your pool experts and igniters in the future.
Yes. Well, I look forward to our collaboration, definitely. And for sure, that's something that we can definitely look into. Thank you so much for your great works for Ignites. We just started, so we are definitely learning the trade, and then hopefully with some guidance from those who are already professionals and experienced in the industry, they can provide us with some good guidance as well. So on this note, I would just like to promote our next episode, which will be held next Tuesday, June 2nd at 3 o'clock Swiss time, where we will be showcasing an event professional who is currently working with the Tokyo Olympics and Paralympics Organizing Committee. So to everyone out there, thank you again. Gracias for coming and listening to me and listening to our special guest today, Patrick Cass. Thank you to the Football Business Academy for this collaboration and for sharing your advice and sharing the great work that you are doing as well. Follow Ignites and the FBA on our social media pages, LinkedIn, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. We are not on TikTok, but maybe we should. Are you on TikTok, FBA?
We are, yes, we are.
Yes? Oh, okay, yeah. Maybe that's something I need to look into. Have a great rest of the week, and see you guys next week. Bye-bye.
Thank you so much.